Hi, I'm John Sarakis, and this is The Climb, brought to you by the Digital Mastermind. Our show is about journeys. It's the podcast where we talk to digital marketing agency owners. You have two of them that are on this show. We also talk about business, marketing, of course, technology. So if you want tips, tricks, tools, mentorship, you want to join a peer group of digital agency owners, you want to stay in constant communication via Slack for all your questions and concerns. We have a bi-weekly call that's fantastic to stay on top of the latest and greatest. We have a gnarly yearly meeting. So grow your agency and go ahead and contact me. Go ahead and visit us at digitalmastermind.com or send me an email at jon@digitalmastermind.com. And the show is live. So welcome all interactions. So feel free to chime in with a question or comment at any time. We'll get started. Obviously, Dave has popped into the screenshot here. And today is Free Talk Friday.
Love my free talks.
Let's do it. I am also a fan. So what's going on in your world, buddy?
Yeah, it's frustrating morning to start, but this week has been interesting, and that we rolled out two big things. Our new website, which is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Great job for the team for doing that. So we actually had time with COVID and all the pandemic stuff, give us a little time to focus on our own stuff. And then for jobs and sports, we did a huge release. I mean, it's like we're heading into social media territory and with our own platform, and I'm super excited about it. Worked on a bunch of features yesterday, got those released. So it's some exciting stuff to build on. And looking at traffic numbers, 57% up over last year is huge. So
those are all positive metrics. Yeah, those are all good things.
How about yourself there?
Definitely excited about the website. Of course, the jobs and sports stuff. Some new DMG members. Happy to get those awesome individuals into the group. Had some great conversations with them. Have some stellar guests that are going to be coming on for interviews shortly. Also want to give a big shout out. I didn't give credit last week. I'm known to be a very personable person, but sentiment isn't always within my value set. Erin Gordon, great friend of the show, awesome DMG member from Savvy Outsourcing. She actually gave me an idea. She said you should talk about your pitching process. So just want to give a big shout out to Erin. She's awesome. Yeah.
I thought the pitch process was good, solid content, and I'm looking at it thinking, we need to write a book, a DMG book.
I got a couple of emails on it too. So people were thankful for that. So need to spice it up into I think a better post.
Sure, I think you could turn that into a speaking engagement. I mean, I would say your probably strongest attributes are pitching people.
I love pitching. So, it's probably the thing I love the most. Yeah, I love the presentation. I love the show of it, the entertainment value, the inclusion. Speaking of which, I actually have a speaking event next week. I'll probably just steal that and throw that in the hopper. I got to speak to like 50 people. So
there you go.
Some I'm notorious for procrastinating at. I'll just get the presentation or the talk the night before, and they usually go swimmingly well. I get a lot of compliments on them. So I'm ahead of the game in that one.
Excellent.
Yeah, some problems though. So you said the morning started off not on the best foot. Say more about that.
It's just
What was the underlying issue? Like one word. Like what was it? Miscommunication.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's just sometimes dealing with the basics when the basics aren't done right.
Yeah, so we got a sneeze on the show. Wow. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's funny when it comes down to the basics. Actually, I put it down on my weekend. Typically Sundays, I like to just kind of like be like soft work mode, where I just plan the week ahead and some of the things. Sure. One of the items I wrote down though is, all right, discipline. Like, what are my disciplines? Like, so every day I start off with I meditate for 10 minutes every morning. This is something I've started over the last 30 days. I'm actually going to talk more about it once I can kind of analyze it a little bit more. And then some other positive things in there, like you do your gratitudes where you're like, you're thankful. I do some journaling, other things in the day. But I slipped on my pitch. Just when I was on a call the other day, or I'm sorry, the sales process, I did not do something I normally do. I typically do a price to outline. And I went ahead and just, I jumped ahead a step, and the deal is going to completely fall through. I was like, yeah, well, I fucked it up. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at my process, my disciplines, and the way that I go about my work. And now that we have a couple other people on our sales team, so I can share that with them. Right. So what I'm getting at is the basics. You have to go back and make sure that you're flawlessly executing the basics. And for me, those are the basics. If I have those bricks in place, I have a solid foundation.
Well, that goes to process as well. I mean, when you got the process is down, because you can't do extraordinary things when you're dealing with the basics all the time. When you're constantly doing the basics all the time, I mean, you'll keep your business afloat. You'll keep the ship, sailing, but you're not going to be breaking world records, and you're not going to be doing, anything special. So you got to be able to get those basics down pat, so you can just, focus on the bigger, better things. So.
Yeah, if you're not catching the ball, if you're not hitting the golf club properly, like, all right, you got to analyze what it is that you're doing wrong and correct it. It's okay to slip. It's just not okay to continually slip. That means you have no traction and you deserve to fail.
Yeah, traction.
Yeah, it's a common word in the whole EOS, the marketing ecosystem. In fact, I think that's the name of the book.
It is.
Yeah.
It's been drilled into me.
And you've never read the book, though, have you?
Nope.
I think it's a tale. What is it? I think it's positioned in kind of like a fictional type of scenario, which is the most deplorable way for me to ever read any kind of business book, where they're like, they just put it in this business context, but it's like fable, I guess. I don't even know what it is. The word's escaping me right now. But when they give like a hypothetical situation, they're like, well, and Randy, never had time to make enough pies. And he just like, oh man, give me the dirt. Like, Randy's getting a divorce. One of his kids hates him because he was too hard on him in baseball practice. And like, what are all those other things? Not that, Randy's not good with his numbers and he can't figure out how many pies to sell. It's just so disingenuous. I hate it.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. That sounds like Atlas.
And I don't think that's a traction book. It might be. I can't remember if I read that one or not. I've read a lot of these fabled books. So,
I mean, have you ever read Atlas Shrugged?
I have. Yeah, that's different though.
Is it? I mean, it's a political philosophy wrapped up in a fictional, delivered via a fictional world.
It is, but it's a very well written book. Like So that point, there's a lot of story. There's a lot of context there in that. But yeah, some of these others, and the idea what they're trying to get at is well intentioned, and I understand that. But just the way that they go about it, I could just give me the outline and let's have a conversation with some other people, maybe similar to this, and I'm going to grasp more about it rather than you showing us your failed attempt at creative writing as you try to wrap that up into your business concepts. Right. I don't grasp things more, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. And I'm sounding really, really critical in the way I'm saying this.
So as I put in the description, what went awesome for you this week?
What went awesome for me this week? I mean, I think it was a great week. So had one of our new show sponsors, the CEO was in town, Pressable. So that was fantastic. Had a lot of fun just shooting ideas back and forth with Alex. That was great. We had a client groundbreaking for one of our clients. They're opening a new large center just right outside of Gainesville, so I got to go to that with golden shovels. That's really successful. Met a bunch of new great people. There was handshaking out there, but there's hand sanitizer too. So yeah, a lot of items. Had some great conversations with some of our team member and some boosting moments based on the next step for their professional career. And we also had I didn't realize all these things. We also had a Ryan Partial, someone join our sales team, who I'm very excited about and has already been making some waves. So those are some of the awesome things that went on this week. And we launched a website. I mean, that's pretty nice. That's another thing crossed off the list. We literally had a meeting every week where we would talk about it for only I think 8 weeks, right? Yeah. And I just love all right, I just freed up an hour of my day. So 1/40th of my week. Granted, it's probably 1/60th. But those are all positive things that took place this week. How about yourself?
Well, like I said, the jobs in sports thing was super cool. Like we were talking about, there's a new show on Netflix called The Social Media Dilemma. We just watched that. It was all about how the inner workings of social media and the algorithms and what they do to try to elicit a certain response, which they do it really well. And And so we're building some of these things on the ground level of jobs and sports right now. And it's just so interesting where you're like, I'm pulling the levers to reward certain things to move people. And this is going to impact people, in a major way, because it's going to showcase to employers certain candidates over others. And so it's just super interesting when you dig into like the ranking algorithms and what attributes do you want to celebrate? Which ones do you want to tamp down? And, and see the network. So what was really cool is we were able to finally launch company pages and university pages. And now with these, we have a ton of professional members that have stated they've gone to this school, they work at this company, but we did not have it all linked together. What this launch did is link it all together. Now you can go to my alma mater page, West Virginia University, and you see everyone who attended. Then you can see all the open jobs they have, all from one dashboard page, because I was able to proactively go back into the data and link it all together. And I was like, I high-fived myself yesterday when it was all done. And Paul on our team has helped a ton with these new set of features. So it's exciting. So,
no, it's a big win. I think in that documentary, which what I found interesting is we've always had these enhancements, right? Now I think they're being demonized because there's a whole another segment that, we grew up in the 80s, so we didn't have a lot of these things, and then computers were introduced to our generation in the most archaic sense, and then we've continually built on this. So we've been able to see this horizon where there's others that apparently haven't. So they're talking about suicide rates coming up and all these others. So there's a lot of that demonization there. But the most fucked up thing is that they won't ever be that good unless you're continually innovating at the level that they're innovating. And there is no other way to innovate other than the algorithms and the AI that they have in place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, it is a dilemma. So I think it was very well titled. I also found it interesting that a lot of the people know that this thing exists. And essentially the only answer to me sounds like it's mindfulness, understanding what it is that you're doing, because no matter what, they're not going to change that. It's going to tell you to get off. Even though Apple, I don't know, you're an LG user, has the little symbol. Does it tell you how much time you've been online and how much screen time you've had on your device?
I mean, I believe it does. I don't know how to access it. I don't really.
On Apple, it literally pops up. It'll tell you. I think mine comes up over the weekends. I don't know if that's standard.
There might be a widget I could put on my home screen if I wanted to, but yeah, so I guess part of the documentary, and I see it today with a lot of people, especially driving. And I know this sounds like an old man thing because everyone's. How many people do you see driving like this? It's ridiculous. Be in the moment. What's wrong with being in the moment in today's day and age? Nobody is. Everyone's grabbing for that damn phone, and you can't enjoy the people around you. I think.
Even on the phone, though, you can even literally be in your head and not be in the moment. I mean, that's where that whole term comes from.
Sure, but I mean, the difference in the next decade is going to be the people that care and the people that are just in their own little phone world. And you're going to notice it. And people are going to do business with the people that are there and care and that are in the moment, especially like at a business meeting. Like when have you ever seen a team member just get on their phone and just check Facebook in the middle of a meeting? I'm like, what the are you doing?
Yeah. I also think it's interesting when you have when you walk over to somebody's desk and it's like all the social stuff that pops up and they just start clicking them all out. And it's just, do you think you're going to be at your highest and best use, to a company if literally you're completely just being distracted by somebody else's photos and what you want? I could tell you're distracted right now. We must have a comment.
Yeah, I've got team members messaging me that we're getting blown up with errors, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's just one of them days.
It's a Friday, and you know what? I call these COVID Fridays because COVID Fridays they've been completely different. They were usually like Mondays where everything went sideways, but no, it appears that Friday has taken over. But I guess we can sum it up. At the end of the day, check out The Social Dilemma. I recommend it. I think people should watch it, especially with agency owners. As far as your participation in social media, I think that just depends on being mindful, right? You need to understand. All right, this is how much time I'm spending on it. I hate to say this, I do not enjoy spending time on social media that much. The website I view the most and I read the most, it's not LinkedIn. I'm sorry. I mean, I go on LinkedIn and I literally try to put in the time. I try to engage with others. It's Wikipedia. Like, dude, if you look at the number one site, like I don't know. I'm a nerd. I love like history. I love knowing about things. I love going down the crazy Wikipedia rabbit holes. Yeah. And that's probably why I try to. I'm one of the like 3% of people that donate. So the 2 points I'm going to make: watch The Social Dilemma, and friggin' give LinkedIn some, or not LinkedIn. Why do I keep saying that? Wikipedia. Give Wikipedia some of your money.
So on that same note, they have a Wikipedia for Game of Thrones, just for Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I love going down rabbit holes in it. Well, before they completely ruined the series for me, I used to, because these fans that put this stuff together, that minute detail from that chapter from that book, it gets an entry and linked to the other things, and then they craft this world. And then, so when I was reading through this wiki, I was like, man, wouldn't it be great if you could create a tool that was basically like a wiki that can help you build a world, and you can just extract novels out of that. And so I looked in it, already made. Somebody's already got that. It's called like Atlas Maker or something like that. And basically you just generate your world and work on, writing your novel, and it, creates the wiki for you, and you build your world. And I was like, that's a great idea.
All right, when are you gonna do it?
I'm not. It's already built.
So hold on a second. They have an application that, as you write your novel, it's automatically building the wiki for your novel.
Yep.
You're kidding me. How the hell does that even do that? Like, so you write chapter 1 and then it just...
No, it allows you start writing it. Let's say you introduce a character. His name's, Sirakis, right?
The best character ever.
And you can highlight it, and then boom, you create a page about Sirakis. And then you write important dates that Sirakis has been involved in. And you could say, the War of Greeks. And now all of a sudden he's got backstory that he was involved in the Battle of the Greeks. And so then when you go back and review that chapter, you can just click on him and then go to his page and read all about it. And then you could do settings. So you could say, well, where did the battle? So then Battle of Greek gets their page made. And then you put in what the setting is. And
the Battle of Thermopylae to make it easy.
You just create like super layers of storyline just by writing. And I was like, that's a great idea.
That is a solid idea. Yeah. But that whole, like, so that I find that essentially the same thing that you find in, I guess, like the fantasy world is what I find in like the real world. You literally just keep going down like all these pathways. Yeah. And these people aren't being paid for it. I think that's also really cool. They're literally taking all these facts and stuff. And sometimes you'll read things and you can kind of see a slant. We're like, it's not really a fact, but it was cited some way. So we'll go ahead and let that one go. Back in the day, I used to do for clients, we'd create them Wikipedia pages and to create backlinks. We got away from that. They just kept, killing our links and deleting all of our pages.
So, I mean, it's like our media today. Somebody brought to my attention Walter Cronkite. Yeah. And do you remember him at all? I mean,
I wasn't alive to watch him, but I know who he is. Yeah.
But you've seen clips and everything, and he was very monotone and read the news.
Yep.
You can't find that anymore. Period.
No.
It's everything is drenched in opinion, and it's getting annoying to consume media today. Today's day and age is getting annoying to consume media because there's a bias in everything. And that is getting annoying.
That's why I choose to like read the news. I do not like to watch or listen to it because it just sounds like somebody's trying to sell me something. But when I'm reading it, I can see, all right, this is what they're getting at. Okay. And I don't get emotionally charged by it where I'm like, fuck this, and turn it off. So if you're actually, reading it, you can also scan in headlines. You can literally look at a headline and say like, oh, all right, well, that's obviously going to, spin it in this direction. So I think everybody should read instead of watch or listen to the news.
But it's going beyond that. Remember when Popeyes had the new chicken sandwich and it was all the rage, and everybody was talking about it, and it was
Yeah, it was a great marketing moment.
It was.
Yeah.
So then I think it was on CNN. I was watching it, and then they bring on not Chick-fil-A, but like Wendy's or something like that to comment about the like rise in chicken sandwich popularity. And I'm like, this is obviously a paid, it's really a commercial covered like a news story to talk about Wendy's new chicken sandwich. I mean, they were all like, Wendy's entering the chicken sandwich market. I'm like, what
maybe I think the real issue there is you have these spaces that they should not be allowed. You have these spaces that you have to fill with content, right? And in those, sometimes they're going to get really almost slapstick, and they're going to pull that in there, that type of information. Other times, they're rooting for certain things to happen, right or wrong, like COVID, right?
Yeah.
Or something like Black Lives Matter, or something that they can really have something to talk about that is really important and it's resonating with everybody. I unfortunately have never tried the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I don't eat chicken. So I can't speak for it. It may be mind blowing and give you superpowers. I wouldn't know.
It looks delicious. Yeah. But the only time I went to try to get one, they were out, sold out. And then I'm keto, so it's out for me.
There you go. You can just rip off all that breading and probably take away all that flavor. But that's where at the end, and also there was the law changed where the media now it's not. There's a couple laws that change in this. I think we've talked about this before. There was the one where you're allowed to own more media stations, right? So you essentially can control mass media. And at that point, I believe it became apparent that if you choose like a side or an angle, it's going to work out better in the long run because you're speaking to a base that you're feeding into whatever those beliefs are, rather than with the Walter Cronkite, where it was America. They're going to read the news and then off to the next one, which I prefer. Just give me the facts. But even then, now what we know, you can slant those facts like in the way that you're positioning those. I dare give an example, but that's the issue.
Reason why Bezos bought the Washington Post is so that he could control a media arm to back him when he needs it. I mean, like the level.
It's no report against him, though. I don't think granted, there might be some like
if he needed backup on something, they're going to support him, and they're gonna keep their veil of objectivity until it's needed. Same when Bloomberg, he has his giant media empire, and everyone was instructed they are not allowed to write a bad article about Mayor Bloomberg during that campaign cycle.
And I think that's different. I haven't seen, and granted, I've seen critical articles against Bezos in the Washington Post. I don't read Bloomberg, so I couldn't say to that one. And I think there's also got to be this weird, uncomfortable element, of course, where like, all right, your owner is someone that you're writing about. But if you're a true, hardcore journalist, which I have a close friend that is, like, they don't give a shit. They're really going to go for it. Now, if you get fired, on the other hand, I mean, that's a different story, which is another story that you can report if you're a hardcore reporter.
Josh Hartnett just had a movie come out about journalism back in, I think, the 70s or 80s, where he was a journalist and uncovered that this Canadian citizen was basically unlawfully prisoned in a Taiwan or some Southeast Asian prison. And he went there and interviewed him and talked to people. And like, I turned to my wife, I'm like, no journalist would do that today. They would just get online and be like, I think this guy's innocent. And I'm not sure why, but it hurts my feelings that he's in prison. And I wish I could talk to him. I mean, they don't do journalism anymore. It's just opinion pieces. There
are real journalists that are out there, but the majority, you're right.
Go.
With real journalists, I mean, my friend Mark Puente, he's a fantastic journalist. Yeah, he's an investigative reporter.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's worked for the L.A. Times, he's worked for the St. Pete Times, and he's broken amazing stories. He's broken up. He's had union bosses thrown in prison. Like he's broken up corporations, for cheating and stealing from the government. He's taken down municipal directors.
Great.
So yeah, and I mean, dude, when he's like hungry and he's on a story, dude, it's I feel bad for the person on the other side. Like if you try to bullshit him or lie him, because it's coming.
Right. And the internet is way too damn powerful right now. I would never You can't be inauthentic in the public light. You're going to get called out. Like,
yeah. And that's just a bunch of like lurkers and trolls and things like that. But when you have somebody that makes you a hobby and they really want to get, the truth and all the facts out because facts do matter,
sure,
that's a scary thing. And I believe those people will fly to Thailand or the end of the world. But the majority of people are just going to do what you said. They're going to take over some of the facts. They're going to gloss over it, not even make a phone call or even send an email of inquiry. And I don't know. I mean, that doesn't sound like even journalism to me. That just sounds like a friend looking up something to prove somebody wrong.
Right. So to bring it back into digital marketing, I mean, I think what this says is how can you build authenticity? Because that is what's going to win in the coming years, is how to be authentic to your customers, and that's going to be the challenge, because there's so much BS out there on the internet that you're going to have to find a way to cut through and build that authentic relationship with the customer. That's why, I said earlier, the people that are going to be able to show you care for your customer are the ones that are going to win the business.
Yeah, I agree. And there's always been that argument for, being genuine in your advertising and your marketing. I think a lot of what, blogging created, with the internet, are all these companies didn't realize the importance of their role in that conversation, where they just did like listicles and they just did, these lame ass,
internet
articles.
pollution.
Right, where they weren't actually talking about, some of the things that we're talking about with like miscommunication today, with getting into employees and, like breaking down like how some of those things happen. And it's blaming the problem, not necessarily the person. And I think, I can't remember who said this, but somebody said, realizing that every single company is, and we do this when we talk about, people's marketing, like, what are you the New York Times of? If you sell, gas detection, you are the New York Times of gas detection. You need to own that space. And how can you speak about everything, within that space, to the point where you're the authority and everybody comes to you for that information? Essentially what we try to do for a lot of digital agencies, right? And it's just understanding your role in that, and also the authenticity of it. Like I was talking about in the fabled story, you talk about some of the personal stuff. That's what really, solidifies something. If you're just the dry and the drab, it's not going to survive. In fact, maybe that's what took out the Walter Cronkites of the world, and we went a completely different direction with the, if it bleeds, it leads type of scenario, and just really trying to find dirt, really trying to slam something in a different direction, which is not a good thing for this planet.
Well, I mean, to talk about the Walter Cronkite scenario, I mean, it used to be with network television, it's different rules than cable. Cable, you're paying to get that content. They can do whatever they want. But there used to be a thing that, if you wanted to broadcast over public airways, you had to provide some news for the American people. And
I think there was a left-right thing, right? Like if you had like a senator from the left on, you also had to have a senator on the right. Or am I just imagining that?
I think you're just, I don't know. I think you're just imagining that. But that's why they did just the news with no opinion. They had to in order to broadcast over the public. And so what happened is cable news started eating their lunch because there was no rules. And so they were able to do a lot more entertaining, a lot more opinion. And then that started creating the echo chambers, and people started falling into their, bucket, and they, can't go outside the other bucket. I mean, you can't even discuss with people today if you have an opposite point of view. I mean, people just get so heated so fast.
I love it. I look for that.
Bringing it back to digital marketing, I'm like, I absolutely hate when brands get political. That, like, just do your business. Just do business. And just cannot. I think it's a bad move every single time. Either way, either side.
I'm trying to think of a good example just to counter that point. I don't know of one. I would never recommend it to a client. It just, that to me just seems like, I don't know, why are we going to start a fire if we don't need to? Like, everything here is cool, calm, collected and cavalier. So I think, but there's also politically charged situations that I don't believe are political situations, like, like environmental protection. I think that should be something that, all right, we should all consider about. This is our environment. We should consider it. If somebody thinks that's, politically motivated, I challenge them on that. I don't think that is.
I mean, I'm going to challenge it. Everything is politically motivated, because if you want to talk about the environment, you can say, all right, well, we're not going to allow drilling in the Gulf then. And then now what are you going to say to the 10,000 drill rig workers that are like, oh, so you don't want me to have a job and support my family?
No, not out in the Gulf. I don't. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I would say.
That's political.
So I guess everything is political, and at that point, then I've recommended to our clients that they should do political things. Then,
I mean, coming from West Virginia, have coal is such an old industry, but it's still needed, and there's a lot of people that work in it, and it employs. West Virginia's economy has pretty much been depressed for the last 30 years, basically because of the reduction in coal industry. So that's why it's used as a wedge issue. I mean, everything like that everything can be politicized, and that's I guess the point. What I started on my rant is that it's annoying.
I think it's a part of it. And it's just one of the things that, all right, we just need to embrace to the best of our abilities. And
will we ever get back to a everything's political period?
No, ever. I think. I don't see how we would. I'd like to see less division, though. I believe we can get into a state of less division where we can have dialogue about differing opinions. It sounds like you have a differing opinion on this than I do. And it's just like, all right, cool. All right, we can just move the conversation on. We don't take it personal where there's like name calling. And I don't think differently of you as a person because you have a different opinion of me. I think those are things that can be taught. Man, we are getting deep here. Man.
How about mask shaming? What's your thoughts on mask shaming?
Like we shamed one of our employees the other day in our personal Slack channel.
Yes.
Which you had some great posts in there. I don't think any kind of shaming is good. I mean, if you want to literally make somebody feel bad to the core of who they are as a person, I don't think that's going to be a constructive exercise.
It's terrible for our society.
Right.
So on our local Jacksonville Reddit, there's people posting pictures of people in Costco shaming them for not having a mask or having the mask pulled down. And I'm like, you're publicly shaming somebody on our city page. It's just something terrible about that to me.
Oh, I have a theory about Reddit. I think, most of the negativity online either lives or is spawned from Reddit in some capacity.
I can completely agree. Reddit is like the gateway to the nasty, deep, dark web. Like that's how you get into the disgusting internet.
Yeah. Just the things. Oh, it's still anonymous. So you see a lot of the negativity that's on there. People aren't claiming it. Reddit and 4chan are two different worlds that, the worst of social media. And I would say that those are social media sites.
Yeah, of course.
But no, I don't think any shaming is good. I wear my mask. All right. For others, make them feel comfortable. I get it. That's fine. If they don't want me to wear it, I'm not going to wear it. I've gone into places with it and had people I obviously made feel uncomfortable because I had it on. So I've experienced that as well. So I'm not wearing it for me. I'm just wearing it for others.
Yep. Well, that's exactly where I'm at.
And speaking of which, this is a little bit political. I think I may have mentioned this, right? So this was I think it was the first Thursday night football game. They had the commercial with, and this is, on the marketing side. So it really interests me. They had the commercial of a lady for John Deere. It was a John Deere commercial and she's driving her tractor and her name was Karen. Right. I don't know why nobody else has talked about this. So I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. It's like, okay, I want to look at Google trend data for Karens. It's wildly unimpressive, right? When you actually just have the word Karen, because there's all these famous people that are coming out named Karen, so on and so forth. So that affects nothing. But if you look up Karens, you'll see some pretty dramatic spikes recently. So I went back like, okay, is this just something new that they've positioned based on the, we're coming up to the election period? Tractors. We can make some assumptions on who that audience would be, why they would potentially choose Karen. I've made no phone calls. I'm not a journalist, so I'm probably the people we were just bashing a moment ago. But I find this Karen's Twitter page, right?
The actress?
Actress.
Okay.
Who's actually not really so much. She was an actor in this, but she owns a horse farm like here in Florida. Like I could probably drive there within like a couple hours.
Right.
And it from January, like some of her posts might like, hey, I want to keep, America, together and like what it is and whatnot. So I'm going to take it upon myself. I'm going to reach out to John Deere to further the story. I want to know why they selected her and if that was motivated based on the decision. I don't know if they would actually give that to me, but I have a sneaking suspicion. But granted, she loves this tractor. She's driving it around. You can see it all over her Twitter page. You can do the own research. I don't want to, blast her out there right now. If you want to take the time to do that, but at the end of the day, my gut is telling me that was a marketing decision to choose that name and find that person. And I'm gonna get to the bottom of it. That's my claim.
So, but it's her real name.
It is her real name.
So, interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, she's a horse farmer. I mean, she looks like a wonderful, happy person. And I'm just, wondering if that was, something that was, decided. Because if you're controlling somebody's marketing strategy, that's something that's on the table. Like, hey, shouldn't we, consider that?
They could have easily just used a fake name too and change it if it was something bad.
Yeah, but if you want the authentic side, like we were talking about, and like really leaning into it, that's the direction that you should go.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So this is what I've done with my time. What else you got going on in your world? It's Free Talk Friday. You can talk about anything.
My camera has had a break, so I'm using my webcam. And so, people out there that are watching, your world is going to be on Zoom for the next 12 months easily. No matter what happens, you're going to be on. Get a good setup. Your webcam on your laptop sucks. Buy yourself a new webcam that's high definition, that gets some lighting. Don't make it look like you're sitting on your couch, and make it look professional. So my professional camera on the fritz, so I got to fix that, which is a pain in the ass. And dealing with shoddy products, like I had to order a dishwasher for my mom's condo, right? And it showed up all busted up, and I mean, just terrible quality. And now it's been a pain in the ass getting replacement parts for it. It's not my fault.
Did you buy a cheap dishwasher?
No, it's a Frigidaire. I mean, it's not a high-end dishwasher, but it's the shipping company just banged it around. It's not a
brand X or anything. It's like it's a legit.
Yeah. How many times have you gotten a fridge or a major appliance show up that has dings on it? Brand new.
So for a short time there, I owned an AC company that we would ship ACs to around the country, right? So we would get inexpensive models bought in bulk. And dude, these shipping companies, I swear, the reason I got out of it, they dented every single one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I was like, how are you guys doing this? Are you guys like taking a screwdriver and just punching the fins? Yeah,
right.
Like logistics companies, and I have some family members that work in that industry. I'm just like, what the fuck? Yeah. So
and then and it's a terrible experience for the customer to get. So I was like, so here's when I bought this, I was looking for a whole appliance suite for my mom's condo, and I found the cheapest price online with this, appliances.com, just some faceless, and this is before I was on my whole, go local thing. This is actually what led me. This is part of the thing that pushed me over the edge. So I go through that, and then I'm like, you know what? I want to go local, so I go to Home Depot, and I buy the rest of everything locally, because even though Home Depot is and what's funny is the worker was like, you should go online and get these. And I'm like, but will you get credit for it? Or will this store get credit for it if I buy it online? She's like, no. And I said, well, I would prefer to purchase here. And she's like, oh, that's awesome. Great. She was just looking out for me. But I was like, no, I'm trying to look out for you. So let's buy this right here. So I buy these things. She's like, oh, it can't be shipped until September 16th. I think we were at nice. I think it was like a month and a half out. I'm like, how the hell is it a month and a half out for shipping? And they said, well, with COVID and all that stuff, all the supply lines got, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Well, then the appliance.com shows up, but it shows up busted. And then a month and a half goes by. Home Depot appliances show up, are installed. Everything looks great. Nothing's dented. And I still don't have the replacement parts for the dishwasher. So I'm like, hell no, I'll never order from online anything. I want local, because if it's busted up, I'm going to Home Depot and I'm talking to them and saying, replace this. I don't want to have to coordinate with an Amazon seller in their message system. So just big ticket items I would never buy online from an online distributor. Like people that
on the show Friday Rants.
Yeah, imagine getting a mattress like a purple or whatever, and
covered in piss.
Something goes wrong and you got to ship it back. Like what a hassle. Are you kidding me?
Well, I think those companies have it's set up into their model, right? So it's the first 100 days they're going to pull it back, right? That they're set up for that logistically. But these others, right? If you probably bought one of the best deals for the dishwasher or whatnot online, right? Yeah. So we did the same thing with the AC company. What were not baked in what were the returns? We had a return process and a return policy, but we weren't equipped to take in every single air conditioner back and then fight with the person, that shipped it to refund the money so we could actually make some money. That's a nightmare. It's a horrible setup. And that company is probably in the same position to the point where we literally just figured out how to break even, get out of the business, got everybody's air conditioners to them. The warranties were direct with the manufacturers, and we literally just shut the company down. It was not a business that I wanted to be in. Continual disappointment.
Yeah. That would be terrible.
Yeah, and just waiting on things. We have one of our clients works in the construction space, and with the flip side of that, they're trying to work with all the expectations that people have because of COVID. They're like, oh well, I paid you for whatever, right? Fill in the blank. Well, they can't get the material to do it, so the people are unwilling to switch based on the material. So we're at a moot point. Nothing is going to move, so nothing is going to change. And then people's expectations are really higher, right? So let's say that they deliver some of the material, they have nowhere else to deliver it, right? We're talking about like doing like a home remod, and they deliver it on their front lawn. They're taking pictures and trying to shame them on social media because they delivered it on their front lawn. They can't deliver it anywhere else. So where else are they going to put it? It's just people are super unhappy right now. And the whole world's unhappy right now. And that's just continually, perpetuating negative energy, making it harder for, the companies that are doing it right, like our client.
Yeah, you nailed it with everyone's upset right now. And so, yeah, I just
got a show comment there. Look at that.
Let's do it.
The hold on PPP. All right, so are you in the loop on this?
So
thank you, Jennifer, for your comment.
So the best that I've been told, the latest I got informed by the bank is that the government has not officially put in rules, so they extended the payment back 4 months. So it was supposed to start November, where you had to start paying it back, and then it got pushed back for 4 months. I believe everything's been
March?
approved. Huh? Yeah.
So March? Okay.
Yeah. So everything, and then I think let me actually look that up, because I believe we've been approved and we're just waiting on official SBA. Let me see.
So we've been approved not to pay the money back. Is that what you're saying?
Forgiven. So we've passed the requirements to be forgiven. But let me look this up real quick.
Because I know there's the stipulation where you can choose whether you're the 8-week or the 24-week in how you use the money. And depending on the way that you set that up is also going to dictate on when you pay that money back.
Correct. We went with the 8 because we're a service. Really what that means, the difference between the 8-week and the 24-week is what's your business model. If you're a restaurant where you have products, then you need the 24-week model. If you're a service-oriented where salary is the majority of your expenses, then you want the 8-week model, because salaries are what is being forgiven. Inventory and product is not.
But the they didn't give PPP for inventory and product. That was mainly
expenses. No, they were trying to get expenses forgiven.
Right. Okay, but the PPP was like that was personal insofar as the majority was employees, and I think there might have been some rent in there and whatnot, right?
Yeah. There's certain percentages of each expense type.
Yeah.
But since salary was like 100% forgiven, if you're in a restaurant where your employees are, on the lower end of the salary range, you need 24 weeks to eat up enough wages.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
To get a significant amount forgiven.
I see what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah. But as a service-oriented company, we, ate right through our PPP funding and those 4 pay periods, no problem.
Right. But there wouldn't be a problem with a service company that went 24 weeks if they wanted to. It wouldn't.
Right. They could.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're still only going to get a certain amount forgiven. So, I mean, if you go 24 weeks and you've your payroll is 4 times what you got on PPP. You're not getting any more money.
Right. But at the end of the day, they're still forgiving the same amount. It just depends on, however you consumed the money, and you just
Correct.
need to show the way that you consumed it. Okay. All right. So we're on the same page there. Oh, got a comment in here.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know. I mean,
My advice is find a new bank.
Well, I mean, you're tied to it now if you've gotten your PPP funds there. So that is, a tough situation. So the way we did it, and let's just be transparent and open with everybody, is we got our PPP funding and put it in a specific separate bank. And then because I knew that payroll was going to be forgiven, we switched our payroll company to withdraw from the new account at a separate bank. After 4 weeks of that, we then switched it back to our typical setup. And I left a little bit of money in there because I assumed that we're going to have to start paying back before the banks can get their heads out of their vaults and have to pay back some money. I expect that we're going to have to make payments prior to it getting forgiven. So, yeah, I think it's going to such a mess where they're just going to be like, all right, it's all forgiven, never mind.
Yeah, I wish it was like that, because but I mean, at the end of the day, like some churches got like $4 billion. Like, so I think some of this money needs to be paid back, right? A lot of places took it that didn't necessarily need it. And I think for us to have a healthy economy and a healthy country, that there needs to be a structure needs to be paid back. But what I don't like is how inconsistent it is. We have Jennifer here. She doesn't know. We're not entirely sure. There is no set gospel on, all right, this is the best path forward, and this is essentially how it should be paid back. It just keeps changing.
So whether it was used appropriately or not, I still don't think it's a bad thing. And I know people are like, what? You just like rich people. And I'm like, no, it's this money. Any other stimulus that would go out into the country would go through, the power brokers. It would never go straight to the people. Like, this stimulus money went to tons of people that are on Main Street. And that money is going to get spent on Main Street, not Wall Street. So whether it went to saving a job or not, it's still money that's supporting your economy. So make sure you spend it locally. Don't get your.
But that's the thing, is make sure you spend it locally. There's tons of companies that did not do this. I mean, you had like Ruth Chris, right? They still fired everybody and they kept the money for their shareholders. That's not money that's probably being spent on Main Street the way that it should. So those are like, there's tons of companies that aren't as marquee as that, or fun to talk about, that we don't even know about, that they need to pay it back. So at that point, I think we all need to buy in and pay back our share.
Right, but what does that do for what the impact of paying it back does nothing
to it helps our dollar. I mean, we just literally created inflation.
All right.
So if we want to reduce inflation, then we need to, the printing press, we need to make sure that we, put money back, where essentially we got it from.
That sounds like the appropriate approach, but in practice, that's not how it works. So inflation's at 0 right now. We are not seeing any inflation. So even though we just, voila, $3 trillion into the Main Street, inflation didn't go up
yet. I just think these are all these things that are yet, like, we just, so
I'm saying, if somebody gives the government back,
there's no way for it not to go up if we printed money.
I would rather, instead of paying it back, force them to provide a raise or higher or something like that.
Okay, that's fine too. Yeah, with companies, there has to be something that is better than just like, hey, we printed some money and we put it out there. Like, that's very short term. That's Band-Aid shotgun wound type of strategy. And what we need is, okay, like, what is a plan? I think we should have went with like the New Deal. Like, all right, you want the money, you're unemployed. Like, cool, go sweep up the interstates. Have you seen how disgusting the interstates are? Like, work for that money. But no, why not? We're just literally just going to give people $1,200, which was more per week than they were making before that.
Well, that's completely different. If you're talking about the unemployment,
I'm talking about all of it in general, right? I think now that we know, somebody can move forward with the plan in place. And if you're unemployed, I think there should be there should be things that you can do based on the government, whether they could be the lowest priority, where you could earn that money and still.
I agree, but wasting productivity is not the answer. That doesn't. You need effort to create more demand, and if you're just going out there doing shit nobody wants, then you're not going to create more demand for anything, and you're not. Like the economy.
I got a flat tire on the interstate the other day. That's why. Like that's near and dear. It's pretty shitty.
So, all right, tire fixers are getting jobs. So you're taking away business from tire shops.
Yeah. No, the person cleaning the interstate because I picked up the screw on the interstate. Like they need to be cleaned.
But I mean, that is the level that you have to think through when you're talking about economics. Like when the government gets involved, there is an impact. So you say, all right, all these unemployed people, go sweep up the interstate.
No.
All of a sudden, every Goodyear and tire shop seeing a 15% drop in their business. Now they've got to let go somebody, all because the government decided to get into the taking nails off the street business. You know what I mean? Like there is always going to be an impact, and so I don't think government should get involved in doing things like that.
So you don't agree with what Roosevelt did in the New Deal when he created, I think it was the CCC, essentially, where it was like we created the parks and we dug all the ditches and we did all the work. And those were all jobs that were given to men at the time.
There was a ton of shovel-ready projects that actually produced value, right? Parks is a, but there was also rumors of people just shoveling dirt from one spot to the next, and that doesn't.
I think it's better than somebody just sitting there and just collecting a check for $1,200.
I don't want them to do nothing. I want them to do something productive. So if you're gonna just move dirt from one spot to another, like, do it for a playground or do it for
some things that were done. There might have been there were some some outliers where there's just some. I mean, no matter what, there's going to be shitbags, right? And they're going to do something. But on the majority, I think when we give somebody money, there should be a purpose for that money. And I think having a job or some kind of outcome is a really important thing just for a society. Free money is not a healthy thing for society.
Correct. But again, I like how it was straight to Main Street, because most of the time, economic stimulus is delivered to the banks via zero interest loans from the Fed, and then they're supposed to then provide more housing for certain people or give loans for certain people, but it's all funneled through a bank that's going to make interest on that money, where they didn't pay anything for this money. It's just a zero showed up in their bank. That's how it usually goes. And that's why Wall Street loves government stimulus.
Yeah, they all got 5% for each one of these things that they cut. Yeah.
So this was like, here's money directly to Main Street. Save your economy. And I think it worked. I mean, there are plenty of stories of business. I think I read 20% of all businesses that were operating before 2020 have closed permanently. And that's bad. I mean, that's bad. But there's also probably going to be, and just like we talked about in August, a record number of new businesses started.
Unemployment. We have we have, what is the unemployment right now? I mean, I think we're at like
9.8%. So it's just under 10 as of the last numbers.
Right. So comment here from Jennifer. I have a client that is in the unemployment industry, and it's getting bad it's getting people to go back to work for less. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. We've conditioned a habit. I know a guy, like his kid works in the movie theater, and he was pulling like $1,200 a week. Like the kid's never seen a check that big. He was making like $200 before then. So I just think that there's something coming around the corner. I know October is going to be here. There's some surpluses that we're going to the airlines that are supposed to stop. I'm hoping for the best. I always prepare for the worst. And I don't know. I just think there's things now that we don't see in the future that and it could be 4, it could be 8 years down the road that we're creating now. And maybe that's just fear. So let's just live in the moment.
I think probably the biggest story that we'll see over the next 10 years, the next decade, is going to be how the generation that weathered a financial crisis and a pandemic. So, imagine if you graduated college around 2010, you couldn't find a job. Mm-hmm. And then you finally got into somewhere eventually, and boom, pandemic, and now you're probably laid off again. I mean, that's psychological scars are going to be on that generation for years to come, and that just sucks. I pretty much went through being raised, my first job, and maybe maybe my third job. So I had plenty of career experience. I had a lot of successes, and then the financial crisis hit. So my life was just pretty smooth in terms of the economy, because it was, the stagnation of the 70s was ended in the 80s. That's when I was born in 79. So I was just riding that wave up. The 90s with the .com, build up and the crazy technology. And I guess, I was in college during the .com crash. So I guess I just didn't really feel that. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a .com crash when I was in high school. Then you had 9/11, and then there's a few short years after that. You had the 2008 housing crisis, and that's essentially, decided to start, my agency in that time. I think if it's going to be there and we're going to let it get to us, it's going to be there. What do we, take from that situation and mean from it? But on the whole, I agree. There's going to be scar tissue. There's going to be conditioning that happens, and who knows what the future
holds. Lattes.
Sweaters start selling pumpkin. Yeah, hopefully they're all made in America, right?
It's this time of year so I was watching some news report where somebody was from up north and they had like a real heavy jacket on, and I was like, ooh, it looks cold there. I'm like, damn, I love living in Florida, but I also wish we got cold. It got cold every once in a while. Like, I do miss that fall, but like 10 days into fall, I'm like, I'm happy with my Florida.
Speaking of which, yeah, we're gonna have a 2-week hiatus coming up because I'm going to see the fall up in the Northeast. Yeah,
that's what you say, but I plan on going live solo. I'm gonna bring the David show to Facebook and DMG.
And then after which, there's going to be a whole different change. Other than that, let's. I think we should, bring it entirely back. We talked about a lot today. The PPP, I would contact your bank. Jen, obviously we need to contact ours to just get what the hell is going on so they can give it to us. The best person to listen to on that would be your bank, right? They gave you the money. If you get a chance, watch The Social Dilemma. And other than that, I think we've covered a lot today. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. This is The Climb. I'm John Sarakis. That was David McGraw. If you want to join the Digital Mastermind, with this show is brought to you by, go ahead and shoot me an email, Jon, Jon, at digitalmastermind.com, or visit us at digitalmastermind.com and get to us that way. Thank you so much. Take care.